We are going to our next speaker, which is kind of a little bit different because last year we had Jeffrey Way from Laracasts with us. We invited him back because he was telling a story, and last year we told him, like, we want to hear your follow-up thoughts a year from now. Jeffrey couldn't make it today. He couldn't call in either because he has some family occupation thingy going on, which is totally fine. So we asked Jeffrey to pre-record his talk. You can still leave your questions in Discord. We will make sure they get to Jeffrey, but it will be with a bit of a delay. Jeffrey is talking about AI follow-up thoughts on last year's panel. And, well, I've seen his talk already. It's pretty good.
I want to just add that for those who don't know, I'm actually a big fan of Laracasts. And everything I know about PHP, about Laravel, about React front-end development, it was learned through laracast.com, through Jeffrey Way, which is, in my opinion, one of the best teachers in the industry. So super happy to have Jeffrey with us today.
I would say, just like with the teaser trailer thingy, we're going to roll the tape and enjoy.
Enjoy.
All right, I want to talk about something that I genuinely don't have a tidy answer for. What does AI actually mean for people like you and me? Web developers. The folks who, depending upon which Twitter thread you read or you last read, are either about to be unstoppable or unemployed. So this is a retrospective, I think. Where were we? What happened? Where are we going? And what can you expect to encounter along the way? I hope you enjoy it. But first, of course, hi, everybody. Obligatory intro. My name is Jeffrey Way. I am the owner of an educational platform called laracast.com, which has been around since 2013, in fact. We're going to be celebrating our 13-year anniversary this year, in fact, which is wild. I got my feet wet with PHPverse, and I still unapologetically love it to this day. And that's why I'm speaking here. Additionally, I have no less than 5 side projects at varying stages of development, and I bet you do too. In this era of AI we all find ourselves in. And we're going to talk about that more in just a little bit. All right, let's go. Let's begin with a short retrospective. So we're going to rewind the clock 3, 4, 5, 6 months to December 2025. I think when we look back, and I've said this before, I think when we look back, we are going to assign December 2025 as the moment, the month when the ground shifted. Everything changed. Something clicked. You could feel it on social media. And I'm not saying the ground shifted for everybody, of course. The barista who made my coffee earlier this morning did not have a transformational December. At least I don't expect. But yeah, again, for you and me, for web developers, you could just feel it. Something changed that month. And here's what I think happened. In early 2025, I think the consensus was, look, AI is like autocompletion on steroids, right? It's the next stage of autocompletion. You remember that short 3-month window when you'd hit tab to autocomplete, and now you have multi-line AI-backed completion, which was very cool, super useful, but by no means is it going to take your job. No, not at all. So it was great. But now if we fast forward to late 2025, and more specifically mid-December 2025, things were a little bit different, right? Many of us had some downtime. We had our holiday break. We weren't working as much, and we thought, okay, I'm going to take a look at this. So we sat down to check on the state of things. We kept hearing this term, agentic coding. In early 2025, agentic coding was sort of reserved for like the Silicon Valley execs. For the rest of us, it kind of triggered an eye roll, if you can remember. But yeah, at this point, it's trickled down. We keep hearing it. We can't ignore it. Let's figure out what this even means. So we sat down. We abandoned our families during the holiday break just for a little bit of time. That's okay. It's not okay, but it's okay. We rolled up our sleeves and we took a look. Let's see what these agents can do. Is it ready for prime time or not? And I think it turned out that, yeah, it is. Maybe to our slight dismay, we came to the conclusion, oh, okay. All right, things have changed. This is ready for prime time. Oof. Okay, here we go. Here we go. So yeah, like for me, December was this period that screamed, yo, things are different, right? Maybe the era of writing these semicolons one at a time is officially over, or at least nearing its end. And look, my identity isn't guy who writes semicolons, and neither is yours, but still, change is scary. It affects our careers. It affects your livelihoods. It's exciting, but it's also scary. It's both, is what I'm trying to say here. And what I've noticed is that in times like these, people tend to separate into two groups. It almost always turns out this way. So looking at this slide, you can see here that you have Camp 1. I call these the embracers. The early adopters. Consider the possibilities, they might say. I built a side project in a weekend that would have taken me 6 months. Vibe coding is the future, they might say. And honestly, I think some of what they say is true, I take issue with a couple points, but the excitement is contagious, and I do love that component. Okay, so that's Camp 1. What about Camp 2? Camp 2 I call the skeptics. They take a slightly different view, and they're a little bit more suspicious, I think. They might phrase it, look, I didn't dedicate the last 2 decades or 3 decades of my life only to hand off my decision-making to a model that hallucinates APIs and frequently lies to me. And honestly, fair point. There's some truth to that too. So yeah, I think like many things, I've learned this in my life, like many things, both sides have a valid point. So is there, let's figure this out, is there a future where we all go back to writing every single semicolon by hand, one at a time? In the aggregate, no. I think that ship has sailed. But also on the flip side, are you okay with your bank, for example, vibe coding the software that is responsible for your next balance transfer? And I think you would agree with me right now in 2026, the answer is no. No, I'm not okay with that. So we're in an interesting period, right? We're in an interesting period where we're relearning that semicolons were, of course, never the goal or the point of our job, obviously. But also left unsupervised, right now a vibe-coded app is always going to deteriorate, if I can say that word properly. So what do we do? Knowing that, what do we do? Where do we go from here? And I have a trilogy for you, if you'll bear with me. We're going to talk about 3 worries, 3 wins, and 3 realities I think we have to contend with. So let's get going. Worry number 1. This is the root of our insecurity, I think. Are we all months away from losing our jobs? That's the big question. And the answer is maybe, but almost certainly not. Surely not. And I've been hearing it endlessly for the last 2 years. We keep hearing that in 6 months, ... you better find a new job, right? And then 6 months comes and you hear it again. Well, in 6 more months, ... So I think it turns out that yet again, syntax and the semicolons were just a small piece of the puzzle, and we do have value at the end of the day. And that's what we're seeing. And to solve that larger puzzle requires something immensely important that maybe we don't talk about much. Interest. Such a subtle thing, but it's wildly important when you think about it. It's an essential ingredient. It doesn't matter that it's now easier to get something done or to get something on the page. To be frank, it's still a crap load of work to build a real application. And we are all individually relearning that fact with every side project we work on, I think. Even those of us who work in the industry every single day struggle with this fact. So is there a worry that your non-programmer cousin's going to blow right by you and build the next great SaaS or app? I don't actually think so. All right, quick story. Let me tell you something. One of my current side projects is this platform called Rosette. It is for classically trained musicians to practice and organize their sheet music, plan programs, yada, yada. It's super specific and esoteric. It'll have 5 users, with me being the most important one, and that's great. Anyways, the point is this. If we are months away from losing our jobs to AI, I legitimately have no idea how apps are going to get built going forward. Because even something as simple as this has literally required hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of commits on my part. As it turns out, there's just endless bugs and roadblocks and course corrections and API integrations that you got to figure out. It is an unfathomable amount of work, I would say. So yeah, the definition of a web developer may be changing. It may be moving away from code slinger, you know? That's true. I think that's probably accurate. But it's still a career that requires endless amounts of expertise and know-how and judgment and interest. So yes, TLDR, shocker here, it is a massive amount of work to build, iterate, and deploy an application. And that should fill you with comfort, I think. All right, so let's talk about that for a minute, actually. Let's address the social media influencer in the room. And you know exactly who I'm talking about. The ones who repeatedly promote this idea of a one-prompt app that they built in 10 minutes. Usually on YouTube or X, there's a thumbnail attached to their post. In the thumbnail, their mouth is agape. It's obnoxious, right? And even more obnoxious when you realize that they're quite effective, and that's why they do those thumbnails. But you know what? Whenever I see that, I always think to myself, okay, great. You vibe coded like a marketing page in 10 minutes. You didn't vibe code the app. You vibe coded the landing page for the app, and then you passed it off as some complete project, and then you posted about it. Neat. Next up, why don't you just do these things? Spend the next month fine-tuning it and tweaking every line of the copy. Next up, hook up an email delivery service. Which one are you going to pick? How do you know which one to pick? Next up, debug why your AI agent swears it's working, but your email blast silently never sends. And it turns out it's not working at all. Next up, learn how to wire the whole thing up to an actual domain. Have you figured all that DNS stuff out? Next up, figure out why production behaves nothing like it did when you were testing locally. And this just represents like a tiny fraction. I could keep this bulleted list going, or this numbered list going, for hundreds of items that encompass all of the things we do from day to day. All right, worry number 2. Will we automate ourselves into irrelevance? And this is the atrophy worry. If I stop typing each semicolon to continue with our semicolon motif, will I forget where they go? Will I forget how to build a domain model? Will I forget how to debug an app entirely? And this is a real concern, I think. And the answer, again, is maybe. And in some areas, some aspects, I think the answer is a flat-out yes, absolutely. Look, if you don't work the muscle gets smaller. This is just the plain truth. But like anything, really, we can use AI to make ourselves better, or we can use AI to make ourselves worse and dumber. And we get to pick. And this is a really important thing to be aware of. Am I going to leverage it to improve myself, or am I going to leverage it to go quicker? And I will slowly worsen as a person and as a developer, I think. All right, let's move on to worry number 3. And this is one that haunts me just a little bit. Do we end up as symbolic project managers who aren't really managing anything? Oof. People with the title developer, but they're not really making the decisions anymore. They're just clicking accept whenever prompted, right? The answer is, again, maybe. For some of us, again, probably yes. And you know what? You won't even realize it. Suddenly you just realize that you've taken a back seat. Every time your agent prompts you, you've seen this before. It'll prompt you and it will make a recommendation. Do you want me to do A, B, or C? I would recommend A. And what do? You just say, okay, let's go with A. Make it so. This is an incredible worry, in my opinion. It's undeniable that our workflows are going to change. This is true. But even if you're not writing code line by line, your taste, I think, should still scream its way to the forefront. So let's stop being worry words. Let's move on to 3 wins, 3 things to be excited for. First up, build the things you'd never have made time for. This is your introduction to vibe coding, you know? Right now, you should on the side be experimenting with all of the dumb little ideas you've had over the years. And if you cringe whenever somebody uses that term vibe coding, I would say get over it or rebrand it. Call it spike and stabilize. This is the new spike and stabilize. If that's what you want to call it, fine. Get over it. I think right now we should all be in a state of hyper experimentation and learning and tinkering. Build the weird stuff. Try the tools, break things, learn the vocabulary, learn to spot the cracks and shortcomings in each model. That's our job. As an example, in the last few months, I have built a workout app that is perfectly tuned to kind of how I like to do things. This is a new kind of personal software that we're learning about, which I think is especially cool. I've also built a financial tracking app that pulls in all of my data from 20 different sources. Very complicated. I'm not sure I could do that on my own, but I made that app. That's very cool. And then I also have that sheet music app called Rosette that we'll be releasing this month. What are you working on, right? Just pick a few things and work on them. I think the people who come out of this era ahead are going to be the ones who are experimenting and figuring out what's possible right now. All right, win number 2, build the things you're not capable of. Yeah, we just talked about this a little bit. I got a little ahead of myself, and that's okay. We can now build the things that you flat out were not capable of building 2 years ago. And further, this is really important, I think. I'm trying to remind myself of it every week, in fact. Be more ambitious. The restraints have been lifted. You're no longer handcuffed by your limited skill set. For example, next month, I'm going to publish an Android app to the App Store. And I want to be very, very clear here. I have no idea right now how to build an Android app, but next month, I'm going to publish an Android app. That is wild and simply was not possible again 2 years ago. And this is a key lesson, I think. If your pre-programmer identity a few years ago was like the PHP guy or the code monkey or the testing evangelist or any other kind of fill-in-the-blank identity, I think it's almost certainly time for a rebrand. Myself, I think I'm traditionally seen as like the Laracast, Laravel video teacher guy or the PHP teacher guy. I can tell you right now, those are not the labels that I assigned myself at this point. They are tools I enjoy and love and will often reach for, but that's it. At this point, the guardrails are off, and if the next project I work on requires Go or something like that, then that's going to be the tool that I choose. Here's another example. A month or so ago, we published the first Laracast app to the Apple App Store. And you have a lot of choices, right? I love JavaScript. Did I go with React and Expo? No. I really love, of course, PHP. Did I go with native PHP for that? Again, no. We made it as a native Swift app. And once again, this is a decision I never would have made 3 years ago. But today, we're working on a Swift app. It's shocking when you really think about it. So in summation, build the things that you're not qualified to build. All right, win number 3, eliminate the work you've always hated. This is a big one. Dial in on the parts you love. So I'm trying to remind myself that AI doesn't mean I have to stop working on the things I love. I don't know why I need a reminder for that, but seemingly I do. Knowing that AI can do something very quickly that would take you a long period of time, in a weird way, de-incentivizes you, if that's the proper word there. But yeah, it doesn't have to be that way. Instead, let's get rid of all the things you hate or dislike or are not good at, and instead focus even more on the aspects that you do enjoy. So if you hate CSS, cool, stop writing it. You can be done with that. Do you struggle with, I don't know, CLI scripts? Fine, your agent can do it. Do you despise dealing with git merge conflicts? I do. I'm done with that. What else? Do you love figuring out domains and APIs and what do you name this and what do you name that? If so, Keep doing that and then offload everything else. So optimize all of your workflow to allow you to continue doing the parts that you especially enjoy. Keep doing what you love, in summation. Snapshot that. All right, last part, and then I'm going to let you go. 3 realities that I think we all need to contend with. First up, rethink your systems. All of us, I think, are collectively coming to terms with this. What does a 6-week sprint actually mean now? Because 4 years ago, it meant something very, very different than it does now when, of course, you can go significantly faster. Next, what's a commit worth when, if you're not careful, an agent will spit out these 100-file diffs in an hour, and you're moving at lightning fast speeds that you forget to stop and review and commit. What does that workflow look like going forward? Is GitHub still useful in your workflow? How do you keep from going too fast and then losing control, like we just talked about? How do you deal with the fact that, and we've all experienced this, for some coding sessions, your agent is brilliant. It's a genius. It's wildly impressive, right? It's exactly what you would have done in the best possible situation. And then in the very next session, maybe the next day, it's the complete opposite. It's like a mindless fool. You review some of the code it writes, and it is quite literally garbage. And by the way, if you're not looking at that code, then that means you are committing the good parts of AI and the bad parts of AI. And again, these are systems that need to be updated so that we can deal with it. Okay. Speaking of systems, a couple more specifics. We should absolutely, I think, pull in existing third-party and battle-tested skills from sites like skills.sh. Lots of communities have their own equivalent at this point, but I like skills.sh. And of course, you should create your own. So skills, I think, are one of the gold gems that have come from this new era, so to speak. I love the idea that it's almost like Wikipedia for programming best practices, right? Do you need favicons for your site? Do you remember which ones you need? No, you don't. Of course you don't, and I don't either. Instead, there is an existing skill you could pull in that will do all of that on the fly for you. You know, that's the sort of knowledge that I am more than happy to offload to an agent. On the other hand, if you have some kind of process at your company that is very unique to your workflow, then of course you should create a skill as your way of saying, this is how we do things in these parts, soldier. And then you review it. It's great. So yeah, skills, if you have not, you've almost certainly played around with these, but if you have not, do so now. Things are moving so quickly, and this is one that I think almost certainly is here to stay. So yeah, I think we're going to find that there are a whole set of new best practices related to working with an agent. And if that's the case, what does it mean for the old best practices that were optimized for humans? Do those stay, or do they need to be brought back to the table? And I think the answer is everything is back on the table now. In my day-to-day work, I'm always trying to figure out, like, okay, what is every accepted good practice whose primary function is making things easier for me as a human to coordinate? Because now it may not be the human doing that specific work. And if that's the case, maybe we don't need that anymore. Maybe there's a different way that would be more beneficial, quicker, fewer tokens, yada, yada. Okay, the next reality we have to contend with. Figure out why your projects remain unfinished. And this one is like a gut punch. I know you feel personally attacked. You're not attacked because I feel it too. Why are these side projects still not being completed? We have an agent that can do all of the work for us. It can do it in 10 minutes, according to the social media influencers. So why are our projects incomplete and never deployed? It's a tough question, right? Here's my challenge for you. Force yourself to pick one of the side projects that you started and then you fell off of and push it out to production. I think we should do this not because whatever your side project idea was good, or needs to be completed, I think you do it as an exercise to remind ourselves that this is the entire point. I almost imagine that agents are sort of like the programming equivalent to swiping through shorts on YouTube, right? It's so easy to just whip up a new one. It's so easy to lose interest after 10 seconds and then move on to the next thing. And that is a superpower that web developers have traditionally had over the years that I can feel us losing a little bit. So I feel like as an experiment, as an exercise, as a strength training exercise, we need to force ourselves to deploy these things. I think a clear differentiator going forward will be which types of people can actually complete a project and which types of people lose focus and move on to the next thing and never actually push anything out to the world. Force yourself to finish the current thing. All right, the last reality I have for you is one you likely have felt many times. The temptation to withdraw is incredibly strong. And I know you know what I'm referring to here. When building something with agents, there's sometimes an overwhelming pull to just let go. You find yourself releasing, right? Do you know what I'm talking about here? Withdraw, let go, releasing. Like we discussed earlier, it starts with the agent giving you a few choices, right? Here's some options for how we can go forward, and here's the one I'd recommend. And then because you're moving so quickly, you don't even have time to evaluate the situation. When instead, well, the AI is probably right, so just go with whatever it recommended. You assume it's following your guidelines. So again, you stop taking a look at the code. You stop reviewing the commits. Maybe it works on a feature and you type out the word commit to the agent, but you never actually perform a review, right? We all feel ourselves gravitating in this direction, even when we know it's not the proper path forward. It still pulls you in that direction, I think. But yeah, just as previously, as teams and as a community, we would put systems in place to ensure testability or code style adherence and things like that. I think going forward, we're now going to see a whole crop of AI-specific workflows in place that not just ensure your code works, of course, we already have that, but systems that force the human back into the loop every step of the way. Another technique that I've been seeing a lot more lately across a handful of communities is this idea of reminding yourself to build in small pieces and small chunks. And it's done in such a way that the human is brought back into the loop rather than simply serving the role of reviewing the diff. And here's what I mean. Let's say you're working on a project. You break the project into small features, which is what we've always done in the past. But now you're doing it through an agent. So you can have the agent work on, for example, the migrations for this feature, and then you're going to review the migrations in the console as it is produced. So compare that again to it works on the full feature, and then you look at this massive diff, and your eyes glaze over, and then you just default to approving it, right? It's a very, very different thing when you can see the output directly in the command line. It keeps you more engaged. All right, so let's wrap things up. Again, thank you for watching. I think the bulk of this talk broke down to what happens to us web developers. What do we do? What's the value of a code slinger if there's no code to sling? But yeah, I have to remind myself, and you should remind yourselves, that the semicolons, of course, were never the point. They weren't the reason you got hired. My guess is you were hired because of good judgment, good organizational skills, the ability to break something quite complex down into small steps and then act upon each of those steps. The desire to start and complete and release a project, often for free, is probably why you were hired. But simply writing semicolons, that was never a factor. It's just something we had to do. Okay. That's it from me. My name is Jeffrey Way. Thank you so much for watching. You can find me at laracast.com, on Twitter/X. You can find me at Jeffrey_Way. And I'll see you again.
I so enjoy Jeffrey just as a talker, as a storyteller. It loops back to what Jonathan was saying previously about how important it is to not just do great things, but also be able to show them to the world in an accessible way. And I always get a smile when I see Jeffrey talking, although I might have some reservations about some of the thoughts he's sharing. I might not feel exactly the same way on some things. Nuno, I'm curious.
I have noted a lot of notes here about Jeffrey Way's talk. One of them is actually the thing he said about force yourself to deploy a project to production, because one thing is like writing a POC locally with a few agents, but then once you think about agents, payments, support, tickets, emailing, when you think about all of this, you just remind yourself that maybe not everything is actually done. So I would just add that. I also would add that, I've been building projects for the last 10 years. And something I do notice, and let me know if you think this as well, is that I do feel some detachment of the craft now with agents in AI, meaning that previously, the fact that I wrote the code myself with my own hands would attach me a little bit to the project, to the way it was built. But now with AI, it just feels that I no longer belong to that craft, and as such, I don't complete the project. Do you feel that way a little bit?
Yeah, it's one of my biggest struggles,
yeah.
to be honest. Also, well, there are some side notes to make about AI in general as well, but when it comes to on a personal level, just for me, when using AI, like that feeling of ownership kind of
100%.
fades away. And the way I try to deal with it these days is to outsource the boring parts, like the writing 50 tests when you first written, or the microphone again, when you first written the 2 or 3 as like an example for a new package I'm building, something like that. Finding bugs that I could debug myself, but it's just faster with AI. But that way, at least from my point of view, I just keep doing the things I like to do, because I love writing code. I can't help
100%.
it. Some people don't really understand this when they ask about like, what are your hobbies, Brent? And well, I go to singing classes. That's one thing. But the other thing is just writing code. It's difficult for some people outside of tech to understand, but it just gives such a satisfaction that you can build something with text out of nothing to solve real world problems. And I don't want to lose that.
Yeah, 100%. Building, solving problems with software, with programming was part of the joy, and hopefully we are going to bring some of that. Jeffrey Way,